nice to say. It's been a while. Let's talk. Hey everyone, it's your girl, Ayla Mode, or formerly known as Ayla Mode. I'm sure you've probably noticed that I've switched the branding and everything to Ayla Belle, which is my actual name, and I figured that I'll stop trying to make YouTube this project and that it might be something someday. I really need to get out of that headset. As an artist, all my life I'm trying to find ways of monetizing what I'm doing, monetizing my moments, and I'm sure as a lot of other artists probably know or have experienced in their own lives, it isn't the easiest and it's a very difficult headspace to be in all the time. So I'm going to try and step away from that and keep this as video diaries. I am all about trying to be honest and be authentic all the time. So these might not be as clean cut as my original videos. These won't be as smoothed out or cutting out all the ums. So my apologies for that in advance. Now, I've got lots to talk about, having been such a long time away, and between this channel and my channel with Kira, there's a lot of things to talk about. So let's dive into what the point of this video is, which is to answer what some of you were asking for, which is a transition update. And it is long overdue. So I transitioned in 2017. I'm just at the 5-year mark of having transitioned, which is absolutely crazy. I think it's crazy that I've waited this long to give another update. I don't think I did a 3 or 4-year update. My bad. But I did kind of look over the last video that I did. I just don't remember what that was. 1.5 years, 2 years? I think it's 2 years. Yeah, a lot has happened since then. As many of you know, I have been away in Australia, and I'm sure as some of you can tell, that is not quite the case now. But going into Australia, there was a lot to prepare for. I needed to make sure that, one, I would have access to my medications, that it was something that they did, that if there was going to be any kind of difficulties with doctors or discrimination or anything like that, that I was able to find places where I could access it, and finding out what are the doctors that I could go to. So my partner and I we moved into a suburb of Wollongong, and we were very grateful that in the area that we were living, there was a new doctor that came in that was focused on like LGBTQ health, which is still pretty broad, but ultimately hormones was not outside of her range of things that she was interested in learning, but also wanting to work on. So I was able to get in with her right away, which was excellent, and we carried on the hormone regimen that I had. Now, something that I had a lot of difficulty with in Australia is that they don't really use injections, which is the main form of estrogen that I prefer. I just find it has a way better overall effect on my body, my mind, and I can see it a lot stronger than pills, and patches was not an option in Canada. So I can only imagine what it would be like in Oz, where I'm only going to be sweatier and those things will just slide right off. So yeah, finding injections was really difficult. To be quite honest, we were in all of New South Wales, there was only one pharmacist that actually made the estrogen and was willing to hand it out. I had even a lot of difficulties with them. So in preparing to go to Australia, I was like, oh, there's a place that does it. You can go to this compound pharmacy. There's a place that does it. I will be okay. I did not consider that they would be difficult to work with or anything like that. So that was really difficult. And I did have a number of issues, though not so much off the bat. It was a lot about communication between my doctor and the pharmacist, and I don't even know. So to rewind a bit, I started off on the regular hormone regimen. Then as time went on, I was preparing to go out into the bush, and I was being on spironolactone for like 4.5 years. I guess it was 4 years. I was really worn out. Like, I really don't think Spiro, or at least at as high levels as I was, is meant to be taken for as long as it is. I constantly felt like I was drying out, like I was literally being mummified alive. It was incredibly difficult. I know that Soproterone is an option. I tried it before, and it had pretty difficult aspects on my mental, like a lot of difficult effects on my mental health. I wouldn't be opposed to trying it again. But yeah, so with Spiro being an issue, I decided that, well, I was doing some research and found that people that take injections, sometimes your hormone levels are high enough that you don't need to take a blocker, because your body will just learn, oh, okay, this is like the main hormone that we're working with. We're going to stick with that rather than create what your body otherwise might have known to make. And so I approached her with this information. She said, yeah, this is interesting. We can give it a try. We're going to start weaning you off of Spiro and keep an eye on it from there. Another thing that I ran into in Australia that was incredibly difficult was I thought that I could get on Medicare because of my partner. With COVID, with her being gone from the country for so long, we had a lot of difficulties trying and navigate the paperwork. So I'm not saying that it's impossible, but essentially the paperwork wasn't getting done. I wanted it to get done. It just wasn't getting done. And it cost me a lot, in that every doctor's visit, every 15 minutes was like $40. So like, even if you were at like 31 minutes, you're now paying $120. They would even like feel free to hike up the price on you just because you were talking about something important like surgery. And which is ridiculous, because surgery in Australia was never even an option for me. But because it gets mentioned, all of a sudden it becomes a surgery consult. Whatever though. So there were a lot of intense costs there, and then even doing something that is also very necessary for me, like blood work, costs about $160 pop. These are all costs that I wasn't used to paying here in Canada. So yeah, it was a lot, especially on top of like your medication and all the rest. So we're out in the boonies. I'm trying to wean myself off of spironolactone. I'm now out in the field planting trees, and my alarm's going off to remember to take my pill for my Spiro, and I'm out in the bush. Whether I forgot to just because I was in the middle of planting a tree, or whether I forgot to carry them on my person that day, I maybe got off of them sooner than I was supposed to. So I have now been off of Spiro for now maybe like 9 months. I still take my estrogen shots, but yeah, it's not necessarily a great situation. It's not something that I feel comfortable with. Now, I am in the midst of seeing doctors back here in Canada to figure out what's going on with my body and make sure that my hormone levels are what they're supposed to. But it has caused a lot of questioning and a lot of self-reflection. So now moving a little further ahead into the year, I was looking at estrogen shots, still doing them, and getting the prescriptions from this only one place in all of New South Wales that provided it. And they started saying to me that your doctor didn't send us the script, so we can't provide you with the medication. And I was like, well, I'll try and call the doctor back and make sure that they send this to you and see what happens there. Now, this was all just before Christmas. Another thing that happened just before Christmas is the doctor I was seeing went on maternity leave. So now the doctor that I had access to was not there. The doctor's office wasn't providing me with another doctor. So I even had to look at other doctors that were comfortable or worked within LGBTQ health. And between not having a doctor / my doctor being on mat leave, the doctor's office also was hiring Christmas casuals to answer phone calls and deal with that sort of thing. So when I called them up and said, hey, I'm just need to let you guys know that you guys have a prescription for me on file that needs to go to the doctors, like to the pharmacist. They don't have that. Without that, they can't legally provide me with this medication. If you could please send that through. And for whatever reason, the Christmas casual that answered the phone the day I was calling was really, I don't even know how to describe her. She basically was just saying, like, that's not our fault. Like, if they can't figure out their mail system, that's on them. And I was like, whatever the case is, I need another copy of this prescription to get to them. And they said, well, your doctor's on mat leave, so we can't get a prescription for you. It was incredibly difficult, emotionally exhaustive, and I was already having a lot of stress and feeling out of my comfort zone. I would say that I'm an adventurous person. I would say that I'm a bit of an adrenaline junkie, that I like to be adventurous, and going to Australia I saw it as an adventure. I saw it as a chance to prolong my time with Kira and give our relationship a little more roots. And the concept of moving there and whether that would be a permanent situation was a lot different than risk, a lot different than adventure, a lot different than adrenaline fueled sport. So it really started taking a mental toll on me. I learned a lot of beautiful things about tree planting. It reminded me that I need to be back out in nature, that this is where I thrive. But going into nature in Australia is very different than here in Canada. I really could brush up on a lot of bushwork, bushcraft, and survival skills, but ultimately I am confident that if I was lost in the woods, that I would make it for 3 days to 7 days if necessary. Whereas we'd go on half-hour walks and I'd accidentally step on poisonous ants and feel like I was shot with nail guns, bitten by all kinds of things. While I was tree planting, I accidentally sat on a funnel web spider. I also came across black widows and redbacks. We saw red-bellied black snakes, and to not feel like I can go to the place where I refuel, to feel like I can't go to the place where I recharge was really taking at my mental health. Now, these are all concepts that I will get into in other videos as I talk more about other things, because I'm wanting to do a lot more stuff like this. I do feel it's a lot easier for me to just sit down and talk to a camera. So I'm sorry if this isn't your type of video. I would like to try vlogging and all the rest, but again, I'm digressing. The emotional toll was at an all-time high, and just before Christmas, there ended up being a bit of a kerfuffle where there was a week or two where I didn't have estrogen. Now, thankfully, I recognized this before getting in that situation, so I ended up prolonging the days that I took shots. So instead of taking it every 7 days, I was taking it like every 10 or 11 days, just to kind of help get me through to the next moment where it was possible for me to acquire my estrogen, which really stressed me out again because I wasn't on blockers or anything to help support that process, and I didn't know what kind of effect that would have. I have to really knock on wood and say I am incredibly grateful that I don't have any noticeable effects as of yet. Again, this is stuff that I'm currently in the midst of exploring. So I could already find out that I am developing osteoporosis. I have no clue. But as of right now, my life does not seem to have changed in any way. I do not seem to have been greatly affected. This is not to say or advocate. Feel free to change your hormones at your own will. I am documenting this purely to say that this is my experience, because everyone's chemistry and bodies will react differently in different scenarios. But thankfully at this moment, I do not seem to have any issue that concerns me for my life. And my livelihood doesn't seem to be too impacted. But again, I'm in the midst of figuring all this out, and I will provide another update to say what the result is, what I've discovered about my body and where we're moving from here. As things change medically, maybe needing to switch up what type of hormones I take or how often I take them. Who knows? As I try to rewild myself, I will evaluate all of that, but it's raised a lot of concerns. I really resent how vulnerable I felt, how those people treated me in that moment of trying to transition. I will say all credit to our doctor's office in that they did call me back, and a more qualified nurse apologized profusely, but still that moment of that Christmas casual answering the phone and just saying essentially, I don't care what you have going on. I don't care about your transition or your livelihood. It is not our problem if you can't get your medication. It broke me. That really fucked me up, dude. It really did. I don't ever want to be in that position again. Because at the end of the day, I know I'm a woman. I'm comfortable with that. I will always be myself. But I can't be in fear of my life or my health because someone else refuses to assist who's in a position where they are required to assist. I can't feel like I can go to the avenues where I'm supposed to for my livelihood, where the hell do I go? So moving on from the story of the last year and how it's affected my journey and questioning, again, gender presentation and all the rest. I do seem to be like androgenizing a bit more again. I've got more narrow body again, rather than fully curvy. That being said, some things have not lost. I don't think I'll ever lose my butt. To be fair, I had a fair butt before I transitioned anyways. Breast mass has gone down significantly. So when I first showed up to Australia, I was remeasured there because they obviously use their own sizing system. And according to Australian sizing system, I was a C, and I am now below an A. There's still a fair bit of breast mass and tissue there and everything. But yeah, I would say that it's like a double A. My chest resembles a lot of other women who have lost weight, or maybe were breastfeeding at one time and now aren't. So like there's still chest tissue, but it's significantly less than it was. I'm not upset about it. At the end of the day, I'm not going to clubs or relying on my gender presentation as heavily as I once did. I'm at a point in time where I want to make sure that the health of my body is good. I want to make sure that my mind is good and that my soul is good. And if all of that is taken care of, I really can't be upset. My nails have been like kind of brittle, not super brittle. I mean, they're like, I still have like long nails that are pretty tough. But I have found that they've been like flaking a bit. I also wonder though if this is the lasting impacts of having bare hands in sanitizer for a number of years at Starbucks. I will say Australia was very great. I can count on maybe one hand the amount of times that I was misgendered while I was in Australia. So that was really cool. That was a really eye-opening experience, and validating. It's wild coming back here and people getting it wrong all the time yet again. I don't really know what else to include in a transition update. I really think that this is the absolute most that I can give at this point in time. If there's anything else that you guys wanted to hear from me, please leave it in the comments or let me know one way or the other, and I will try to update that for you guys. But yeah, as of right now, this is where I'm at. With all the smaller stuff being so in question, it puts something bigger like surgery into question a lot more. It's still not out of the question, but whereas I was very sure at one point in time, there's a lot of other things that I need to get sorted out first to make sure that that will go right. So we'll see what happens. Thank you so much for everyone who's been sending me lovely messages over the years. Just checking in on me, making sure that I'm not alive or haven't dropped off the earth. And I really appreciate all of it. It warms my heart so much. And I'm very grateful to the community, and I've been seeing a number of you thriving in different other areas, which is so cool to see. I love you all so much, and I'm back here doing this video and hopefully a number of other videos to communicate. There is some real intense topics that I've been wanting to talk about for a long time that I haven't. The next big one will probably be mental health, and talking about the apartment I had in Toronto being broken into. I don't know if I talked about that on YouTube, but it honestly hit me hard, and there's a number of other mental health issues that I've been wanting to talk about, really just to raise awareness, and I've been very scared to do that for a long time, but I finally think that I'm at a point where I can talk about it, and I want to. Not to just divulge my story, but to let people know, like, this is something we need to be talking about. Not just on specific days, not just because of stupid phone company campaigns. But we'll get into all of that later. Again, thank you so much. I love you all, and until next time.